It wasn't that long ago that achieving great worship keyboard sounds live meant investing thousands of dollars in a new hardware keyboard. And as keyboard technology has evolved over the last 3-4 decades, it's always been super expensive, all the way back to the original analog synthesizers, the first digital rack units, then hardware workstation keyboards, all the way to today's modern red workstation keyboards, and even the first iterations of computer software-based approaches. In most cases, required you to buy a very powerful and expensive Mac computer, and even then you had to be super intentional to make sure that you dialed in all of your CPU saving settings so that it was reliable to use live. Well, as we sit here in 2025, 2026, those days are long gone. It's never been easier or more affordable to find a device that's plenty powerful to run all of your live keyboard sounds. And specifically, we get asked all the time, what iPad do I need as a minimum to be able to run the Sunday Keys app live at my church so that I don't hit any CPU issues, no audio dropouts, it's responsive, it feels good. Even since we first released the Sunday Keys app for iPad back in 2022, it's gotten even more affordable and there are more options than ever before. So today's video is all about which iPad I think you should buy in 2025, 2026 to run Sunday Keys live. I'm going to teach you two different things. The first is just going to be helping you parse out the different iPad models that are available to make sure you buy the right device for you in terms of power and features and storage and that sort of thing. And then the second is that there's more than one location that we often recommend people look when they're going to buy one of those particular iPad models. And no, it's not just apple.com, although we are going to start there. And I will give a caveat here. Some of this advice is a little bit US centric. Just know that at the very least, the specs that I'm going to list for you are going to be super practical for you, and then you can go to whatever new or used markets make the most sense for you based on where you live in the world. With that being said, the first place to check, of course, is apple.com. Now, Apple actually has two sort of stores. The first one is obvious, apple.com/iPad. The second one is a little bit harder to find. You want to just go to Google or your preferred search engine and search for Apple Store Refurbished. And they have a whole marketplace of devices that they've received as returns from their customers. And then they refurb them, make sure they're good as new, and then they sell them at a little bit of a discount. Discounts aren't super substantial, but if you know you want something that's like that new, Apple Care eligible stamp of approval from Apple, then the refurb store is a good way to go. So everything I'm about to talk about in terms of specs, go see if it's in the refurbished store first before you just go buy new from apple.com. Okay, so we're looking at iPads here. Up until the last couple of years, we told folks that the iPad Pro was a pretty worthwhile investment to make because of a couple reasons. One, it had that powerful M series chip. The iPad that I always use is an iPad Pro 13-inch with an M1 chip, and I've been using this ever since this iPad model was released. I think I got it back in 2022, and it served me really well. The M series chips from the M1 on are all plenty powerful to run Sunday Keys live for you and your church. So M1, M2, M3, M4, if you're watching this in the future, M9, whatever M we're at, the very first M chip is powerful enough with room to spare for anything I've ever needed to throw at it in Sunday Keys for a church service. So we always told people the iPad Pros are great because they have that M chip, and then also they have the 13-inch screen. Well, over the last couple of years, our advice has started to change, and specifically now we are telling people you don't need an iPad Pro, and there's one model that gives us reason to say you do not need an iPad Pro anymore for your live keys setup, and it is the newest iPad Airs. The last two iPad Air generations have also featured M chips, and because of that, they have been more than up to the task of using Sunday Keys live, just like any iPad Pro with an M chip has been. And more recently, Apple has started selling an 11 and 13-inch screen size of their iPad Air. The 13-inch screen size was the other reason that we were often telling people to go for an iPad Pro. This is a 13-inch Pro, and when you're working with a touchscreen interface with a lot of controls, like Sunday Keys, all that extra screen real estate from the 13-inch model does go very far. But new iPad Airs have the exact same screen size. All you really need when it comes to performance for your iPad is an M chip and then a large screen. Those two things are most important, in my opinion, for a Sunday Keys user. An iPad Air ticks both of those boxes, which means you can save a bunch of money because the iPad Pros have lots of features that you just do not need, like more powerful video processing and all sorts of other things that are focused on pro-level stuff that just doesn't apply to the live keyboard context. That M series chip and the fact that you have that 13-inch screen are really the difference makers. So for comparison's sake, we're gonna go to iPad Pro and look at the newest 13-inch. I'm just gonna hit buy here so we can get right to it. I'm gonna choose the 13-inch model. That base price is $12.99 American. And then from there, pick a color, base storage of 256, that keeps us at $12.99. And if we don't do any upgrades along the way, then we end up at $12.99 plus tax. And that's our all-in price for a brand new iPad Pro with 256 gigabytes of storage. So $12.99, which is hefty. Let's go to iPad Air for contrast. So we're gonna hit buy again. And again, we're going to that 13-inch model. That's $7.99. So pretty significant savings. And the concession here is we're at 128 gigabytes of storage, which is half the storage of that base iPad Pro. But even if we upgrade to 256, in case you plan to do lots of other things on this iPad also, you don't need more than 128 gigs if all you're gonna use is Sunday keys, by the way. 128 is more than adequate for the next decade of updates that we'll be bringing to the sound library. But if you want more storage space for other stuff, if your kid wants to play lots of iPad games, you can go to 256 and you're still at $899. So you're saving $400 versus that base iPad Pro. Then if we don't upgrade along the way, then I think we end up at that $899 price with 256. And if we want 128, which again is totally adequate, then we're only at $799. So that's $800. And that's the same screen size and an M series chip, which is super powerful. You can save even more money if you go down to that 11-inch model. So if funds are tight, but you know you want something brand new, one of the concessions you might consider making is that screen size. But I think if you can afford to go for that 13-inch iPad Air, you won't regret having that extra screen real estate. Those extra couple of inches diagonally make a huge difference in the overall size of everything on screen. That's not bad, $599 or $799 for a really powerful iPad, brand new from Apple, compared to what it used to be to get an iPad Pro with a 13-inch screen. Now, if you want to go for this approach, the first thing I would do is go to the refurbed Apple store and see if they have this model available refurbished. You might be able to save, 50 or $100 off the price. So that's what we're recommending people buy new today in 2025, 2026. An iPad Air, one of the last two generations, with an M series chip. 128 gigabytes of storage is fine. And if you can afford to pay for that 13-inch screen, we don't think that most churches are going to regret that investment. So now that we've identified these new iPad Airs as the value that we're steering most churches towards, here's the second place that we recommend folks shop. The second option is to look for the exact same models on Amazon. For whatever reason, sometimes the exact same models will be $50 or $100 less on Amazon than they are from Apple, and that's for the exact same device, also brand new. So you can just search for iPad Air or for iPad Air 13-inch if you decide that that's the route you want to take. This is also sometimes the best way to get a brand new previous generation model because Amazon will have those previous generations potentially still in stock. So this is the previous gen. We have the M3 chip, so 2 generations newer than my iPad Pro, 13-inch screen, and it's only $649 brand new. So here, compared to the brand new iPad Air from apple.com, I think the chip is 1 gen back, but it's still super powerful. We have the same base storage, 128 gigabytes, and we're saving an additional $150, so $649, which is pretty awesome. And then you can kind of browse around. So here's a renewed one, which is Amazon's own sort of refurbed program. We know churches that have used this program before and had great results. Haven't really heard any horror stories, and Amazon is very good about returns in my experience. So if you're willing to go for that, you can get the exact same specs as above, 13-inch M3 chip, 128 gigabytes, and we're now down to $589.99. So saving over $200 versus buying that iPad Air brand new. I also see here we have that smaller 11-inch iPad Air with the M3 chip, and that's as low as $449. So now we're sub $500. Of course, you're compromising on the screen size, but this is a brand new iPad. It's just that previous generation with the M3 chip, smaller screen, same storage, 128, plenty fast, gonna be really stable for you, and now you're under $500 for a really powerful device. So I think it's always worth going to Amazon once you've decided what model you're looking for and just doing a little bit of comparison shopping to see what you can find here oftentimes there are deals, and especially around holidays as well, like Black Friday, Christmas, Memorial Day, anytime they're running sales. And so these prices sometimes will be super aggressive, and you can really save a bunch of money for you and your church. So we talked about Apple.com and the Apple.com refurb store. And then once you know what model you're looking for, just always comparison shop and see if Amazon has it for cheaper. Honorable mention goes to Walmart and BestBuy.com. It's a good idea to check those places too. Sometimes they can have similar price reductions to what Amazon has. They also do price matching. So sometimes you can go to those places and try and get a price match if for one reason or another you'd prefer to shop Walmart or Best Buy. Okay, but there's one other place that we recommend people go, and sometimes you can get really good deals here, and that is a website called macofalltrades.com. Back in the day when the option to play live key sounds was to buy a very expensive MacBook Pro, we sent tons and tons of business to macofalltrades.com because people would buy 3 or 4-year-old MacBook Pros for significantly less. We're talking, instead of $3,000, it was $1,500, like half price. And still able to run, Ableton Live or MainStage somewhat okay, as long as they were really intentional about it. But Mac of All Trades today is where we send lots of folks for refurbished, pre-owned iPads. And they have a whole section of the site devoted to iPads. So you just click up here, and then you can filter down by specifically what you're looking for. So you go to just look at iPad Airs. When you're on Mac of All Trades, it makes a bit more sense to shop around in a more general sense. You can look at other generations like this Air 5. The iPad Air 5th gen has an M1 processor. So this was the first Air to have that higher processor in it. And this is an 11-inch, so it is smaller. You're getting 64 gigabytes of storage, but your price now is sub $350, so only $340, and you're still getting an M1 chip. So the same chip that's in my iPad Pro, which I think I paid $1,800 for, $1,500, a lot more expensive, and you're getting the same base performance with this iPad Air 5 now, and that's only $340 used. Now, concessions, obviously smaller screen size, obviously pre-owned. It's older, so Apple is going to discontinue support for your iPad sooner than if you were to buy a new iPad. Apple has been more aggressive about discontinuing support for older models. It used to be you could count on 10 plus years of support, and now it seems like we're more in this like 6 to 8 years of OS updates being supported for these devices as they get older. So if you're purchasing an older device like this, you might just count on being closer to that like 6 to 7 year replacement window, maybe, if you're lucky and you take good care of it. And you're at 64 gigabytes of storage, which is enough for Sunday keys, but not for much else. So if you were going to use this for the next 5 years, I think you'd still be in a good spot. But at that point, you'd start to have to worry about whether or not new OS versions to the iPad are going to be supported and those sorts of things. You might start to hit some storage limits. So for $340, this is a really powerful immediate solution that might not be as beneficial in the long term. So just to recap, you got Apple.com and Apple's refurbished store. You've got Amazon.com, and then you can also compare with Walmart and Best Buy. Oftentimes, Amazon will have the same brand new models as Apple, but just for a little bit less. And then lastly, if you want to go fully to the used market and you know what you're looking for, or you're willing to kind of shop around and consider compromises, you can go to macofalltrades.com, and you might find something and you might not, just based off of the inventory they have. When it comes to the minimum specs that we recommend for Sunday keys, the biggest screen you can afford. You're not going to regret a bigger screen as long as you can make it justifiable in your budget. And any M series iPad is going to be more than up to the task of running Sunday keys, all of your sounds, all your patches, all your plugins, plenty of horsepower to be able to run your live keyboard rig. So this is an M1 iPad Pro that I've been using for over 3 years. It's never done me wrong. I've never hit limits that I couldn't very easily work within. And any iPad that has an M1 chip or higher is going to be up to the task. 128 gigabytes is about as low as you can get now in the new market. 64 gigabytes will do you. Anything less than that, you're going to start to really have to pinch to make sure you have enough storage space. So A-series chips, you can run the Sunday Keys app, but you have to be a lot more intentional about the number of patches that you load in, your audio buffer size, the number of sounds and voices that you have playing at once. You have to be more intentional to make sure you're not asking the device to do more than it's capable of doing. It's possible. And if you already have an iPad, go ahead and download the app on it and give it a try. during a non-live context and see how you fare. But if you're looking to upgrade and set your rig up for the future, something with an M series chip, even the M1 series, is going to be rock solid for you. So those are my suggestions for 2025, 2026. We'll see how that changes as Apple continues to release new models, as we continue to optimize for performance inside of Sunday keys. But I hope this video was helpful to you. If you're a worship leader or a keys player and you like this video, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next video. We'll see you in the next one.